So hello and welcome to Handmade Oxford Online, the interactive virtual craft fair, which runs from Wednesday the 15th to Sunday the 19th of September. This afternoon, we are joined by the wonderful jeweler, Barbara Rybarova, who is going to be talking about the raw beauty of rough gemstones. Now, without further ado, I'm going to bring her on. So I'm going to bring in Barbara now. So hopefully everyone can see. So hello, Barbara. How are you?
Hello, everyone.
It's
I'm
really
good.
great. It's really great to see you. So where do we find you today? Are you in the studio? Are you at home?
I'm at my studio, which is in Old Town in Margate. Uh, I'm here because here I have the best signal, the best Wi-Fi. Yes.
On there. And what's the weather like with you today? Because it's been a little bit cloudy here in London. So how's it with you? Good.
I have to say it's very sunny. I even went for a lunch break. I went for swim in the sea.
Oh no! Oh gosh! Well, it beats going to my local Tesco's or any other reputable one for lunch, which we get. Oh, it's fantastic! Oh, how lovely! Well, I tell you what. I tell you what. The first question I like to ask everyone is, if people are here and they don't know your practice, how would you describe you in your work?
Um, I would say I make one of its kind jewelry, inspired by crude beauty of nature. So I'm mainly inspired by rough gemstones, which we will be talking about. And yes, I'm not sure I'm surprised by the question.
It's always because there's always kind of so much to one maker's collection. So
Yes.
sometimes it's really interesting to hear what people's practice, and sometimes how you kind of got to where you are. So it could be
Yeah.
what's kind of driven you in your practice to kind of make the pieces, and certainly use the stones that you're
Mhm.
using at the moment.
So I got into jewelry in 2012. I studied fine art sculpture in Central St. Martin's in London, but I always wanted to make jewelry. I was making jewelry with beads and just what I could learn at home. And when I finished my uni, I really wanted to learn how to make jewelry, but I didn't want to learn in any kind of institution. I wanted to learn in fields, and it kind of coincided with my plans to go to travel to South America. And I knew that there are very good silversmiths in there. So I went to travel with the plan and objective that somewhere along the way I will learn how to make jewelry from metal and how to set stones. And after 3 months of traveling, I had really badly sprained my ankle in mountains and was stuck in one town for over a month. And this is where I met the jeweler who we became friends with. I went to his home and he taught me how to make jewelry. I stayed there for 2 months, and on my so this is where my when my craft started, jewelry craft. And on my return after 2 years to London, I just knew I have to make jewelry, that there was no other profession for me that I would be happy in. And I bought tools for my last money and started to make my pieces. And what I always was mainly inspired and interested in were gemstones, not really the metal, but the gemstones. I always were interested how to set the stones, how to, yes. So it all kind of gradually happened from fine art background into making jewelry. So I don't have traditional training, and therefore I think that's influencing my work, that is a little bit different in this aspect.
So we kind of there kind of where the passion for your rough stone started. But you know did you kind of start off with like a favorite stone? Was there actually a stone that really kind of set off that passion that you started to work with, and you know, why? What was it that kind of drew you to that particular, you know, stone?
Well, when I returned to London, I didn't have much money left, and I did want gemstone. I didn't know much about gemstones either, but I got really fascinated just by quartz, just quartz crystals, because they are so sculptural. And I actually have one of my, you know, first collections earrings. So this is what I used to make, and I used to buy raw quartz and set it, and I just loved it, and it was pretty much the only thing I could afford at the beginning. And then eventually, with time, I learned a lot about gemstones. I started to discover new things. I was curious into color. I wanted to discover different shapes, these different colors. So I learned about sapphires, tourmalines, aquamarines, and they are now the gemstones I mainly use. So I don't use quartz anymore. I became a bit too snobbish for that, and I mainly use rough sapphires, aquamarines, and tourmalines.
So kind of going through your stones, you know, they play a really important part, you know, of your design. So, you know, how does it affect? Does it affect the size, the scale, you know, or you know, what does it actually bring to a design?
So I start the whole design starts with the gemstone. Um, I would I can design in metal, but I struggle with that a little bit. I need to have that starting point of a beautiful gemstone, and I usually get really excited with the gemstone. I look at it and I just know that this is going to be something beautiful, and I usually kind of put it on paper, draw around it. Where could I add stone, or how am I going to set it? That's one thing with rough stones. Each of them has a unique setting, so you cannot mass produce things. Um, you cannot cast things in many, you know, for many pieces. Every piece I look at the stone and create the setting for it, which is big part of a design. And yeah, so every stone is literally dictating the size and the color palette of the piece. And that's why I never have really a very constrained collections. My collections, I always say they one of pieces in limited collection, because it's almost impossible for me to reproduce pieces because each stone is so unique.
I was going to say, kind of looking at the collections, you know, that you have. So what drives the collection? Because would it be the colors of a small collection of stones that you have,
Mhm.
or would it just be actually the collection is grown from kind of wanting to go out and source, you know, different colors? What comes first in your collections?
I think it's a really interesting question. I think it's a combination. I think it's looking for colors, but also not constraining myself. So, you know, sometimes I might go to a gem show and I'm looking for amazing aquamarines or sapphires, and then I come across beautiful pink tourmaline. So it's both. You know, I'm constantly on a hunt for beautiful rough gemstones, but I also know what I'm looking for, if that makes sense. And often this is very tricky part, is the sourcing beautiful rough stones, because I'm basically looking for them as I would be a gem cutter, because jewelers usually use cut gemstones, so they would just buy them from gem dealers who sell them already cut. I am trying to get right to the sources before the gemstones get to the cutters, and that's why it's often tricky to find a beautiful big pieces. But a color is a big thing, and shape.
So kind of when you're talking about kind of finding the shapes and them uncut, how important does light play? Because does light change the way, you know, the stone as it moves? Does that come into effect how you choose it? Or indeed, you know, do you actually go on to cut them, you know, yourself sometimes?
So that's a very good question as well, because that's basically faceted gemstones are much more sparklier because of the reflecting of the lights. That's what basically faceting does. The light that travels through the gemstones is reflected back at you. Whereas is with rough gemstones, it's natural. So the light travels through, and sometimes it can come back at you, but it's quite different. I do sometimes cut little pieces of the gemstone that I think are not doing it great service if it becomes jewelry. So I do cut off and polish bits here and there. But what I also do, for example, with the ring I'm wearing, this is a rough topaz, which in a rough form is quite transparent. And so this is a rough topaz. So it's beautiful like this, but if you put it on skin, it loses the color and sheen. So what I do here, I set the topaz on top of mother of pearl. So it's reflecting the sheen back at you. So I'm always finding a way around how to make the gemstone most beautiful without interfering with its natural form.
Well, I feel like I've learned a secret technique there.
Yeah.
Well, we've actually had a good kind of question, come in, and it's, do you clean the stones yourself like aquamarines? Because I'm presuming, how clean the stone is also affects, the way that you work with it. And I suppose that could be kind of clean in terms of dirt on the surface, but also clean in terms of how clear a rough stone is, because of course there's going to be imperfections, and that's probably one of the unique, that kind of uniqueness that it brings to your work.
So there, I do cut off a little bit of sharp pieces and shards at the end and polish them off. Cleaning such as you can't really clean if there is inclusion within the stone. It's almost what it is. But I can show you some, and I usually try to celebrate that beauty within it. So this is, for example, there's actually a good example. This is a rough aquamarine, which you can see had some mineral growing on the side and here, which I will chop off and clean off because I don't feel like that's going to be beneficial to the piece. But you can see how beautiful it is in its natural form. So I do clean them, but there's only as much as you can do before you start, shaping them too much.
We've had a really great question actually that's come in. It says, do you have kind of any formal gemology qualification? Do you feel like you need to go out there and kind of, do you feel like someone who has, or do you feel it's something that you need to kind of go and kind of get do you find all there is to know about gems? That's probably a better way of kind of saying it.
So I don't have any gemology training. I learned a lot along the way. It's even for me hard to even say where all the knowledge comes from, but I was working for 5 years in shared jewelry studio in London with 11 other jewelers, and it's incredible how much knowledge I acquired there with talking to them, and some of them had 25 years of experience. So it was all collecting bits and bobs, and a lot I learned from my own mistakes. But I don't have geology, but I feel like I do know enough about gemstones for me to work with them the way I work with them. And a lot of them was through mistakes that I made. I learned about how brittle are tourmalines. I learned how certain color of tourmaline doesn't like boiling water. It can crack. I learned how to beautifully cut some parts of raw sapphire to make it sparklier. So here and there I acquired knowledge, and I feel like I have enough for what I'm doing with it, and I can definitely know what I'm looking at fake stone and real stone, because faking rough stones, it's very difficult.
Oh, we should take you on Fake or Fortune. We should start doing a jewelry edition with you. But that's actually quite a really good kind of leading question, because you mentioned there that you worked for some time with a studio, with many other makers. I think sometimes makers who work alone can kind of feel sometimes they're in their own little bubble. How important was it, to work and be surrounded? And, did you find that you were sharing skills, and have other people's skills and support, kind of pushed your process on more as well?
Yes, absolutely, you're right. I mean, this was just when I started to make jewelry, and I think it was extremely important for me, and I think it just propelled my way of working and making, because I met so many jewelers, and I have to say pretty much everyone who I met from jewelry field are really nice people who are happy to share their skills and tips. And everyone makes jewelry in a different way, and it's incredible to be surrounded by other makers and observe things. And some things you will change, some things you will not change. But for me, it was very important, because I think it was almost like doing 2 masters at university. I felt like that. I've been in my studio for last year. This is the first time I have studio by myself, which at this point in my career, you could say I'm enjoying, because I think I got to the point where I'm happy to work with what I know, and if I need any help or advice, or just I just call my friends who are jewelers, and we just chat, and it's the community is always there. I think it's very important for makers.
So now you've kind of come to work on your own. Do you feel that you've got a different way of working now? So you're kind of in your own space, you're with your own thoughts. Do you think that's changing the way that you work, or is it just changing how you work in terms of dictating time?
Well, definitely drink less coffee and eat less cake. And I'm probably more productive, I would say. I think you tend to chat a bit more than you need to when you're sharing studio. So I'm probably a bit more focused, I would say. But I think one's way of working is always evolving with time and with design. So yeah, it definitely changed, but not only because I'm working by myself now, but because of my skills and what I learned, and also the business is growing, so you have to think differently.
Well, it's been such a year for everyone. So what would be really nice is do we have a few of your pieces, that we can actually kind of get to know this afternoon?
Some of my pieces, jewelry pieces, right?
Yes, please. We'd love to have a closer look.
So I have so my latest 2 new rings are made with. So this one is made with rough aquamarine, and this one is made with rough London blue topaz. And I had these stones for a while, and I was thinking what to make with them, and how to, as I told you, preserve their color so they don't get lost on the skin. And I set both of them on mother of pearl, and they have white diamonds on top and base. They set in 18 karat gold, and the band is silver with 18 karat gold detail. So I'm really liking the color of these, and I like how the mother of pearl underneath plays with the light. So these are my 2 latest pieces from Crude Beauty collection. And I also made a little bit different pieces a couple months ago, which I'm really enjoying the way they look. And they are made with rough crystals of aquamarine, and this one is pink tourmaline, and with some salt and pepper diamonds. So these are very everyday wear, you would almost say, very easy to wear. And I'm really liking this design because it's very minimalistic, and it reminds me of a little bit of Egypt and Art Deco. And it all came from playing with shapes, with shapes of the salt and pepper diamonds and crystals. And these are lovely little studs, which I really love. They said they're very simple but very effective. So it's a pair of rough aquamarine crystals. They both set in 18 karat with little diamond on the side. They kind of lovely sit on your ear. Yes, those are like my probably late favorite pieces. I have one piece that I already sold, but I'll show you. It's a beautiful rough sapphire piece. So this was one of those gemstones that I knew I'm not gonna find again, probably. It's a rough sapphire from Sri Lanka, and the formation was just incredibly beautiful. It looked like you know, like a rocky shape of leaf, but very rocky. And again, it had diamonds on the side. And this ring sold very quickly. I think people somehow pick up on pieces that are very unique, and they want them quickly.
It's amazing that you've got, you know, all these, you know, rough you know, kind of rough stones there. So each of the stones, but the way that you've used them in each collection, you've kind of used the stone, but we can still tell it's you. So each of them, even though the stones are different, each of the collections, we can still say it's you as the designer and the maker behind them. And that's such a lovely way of both, you know, your skill and the stones as well, that we can see you running through them even though the stones change. I think that's what I'm trying to stay,
Amazing. Thank you.
which is a really lovely skill, you know, to have, and it's one that's very recognizable. And I think that's, you know, that's lovely, you know, to have running through the collection. But I can also spy you've missed one out, and those are the earrings that you're wearing.
Oh yes.
Don't forget those.
Yes. So these earrings are my collection, which is called Nature Goddess. And for this, actually, I'm not using rough stones. I'm not always using rough stones. I use stones that really amaze me and impress me and inspire me. I think the inspiration is the big part of it. And these ones are called dendritic agate. And they are basically beautiful natural agate stones which have deposits of iron oxide and magnesium, and it creates this branch-like patterns. And this earring, because each stone is unique as well, that's why I like them. This earring is slightly different. So this one, even though it's a pair, they deliberately unmatched. So this one is a kind of slightly brownish and has a champagne diamonds on the side. This one is more orangey and it has cognac diamonds. And at the back, we have mother of pearl, again, to make sure that the stones are nice and shiny when you're wearing them, even with your hair down. So this collection is Nature Goddess, and each piece is kind of devoted to different goddess from different cultures. So there are few rings that I can show you. This ring is called Medina, which was an Artemis, goddess of hunt and nature. So they, again, 18 karat with sterling silver and with diamonds on the side. And each of them, again, because of the deposits, each of them is unique.
They look really kind of ethereal. I don't know if, you know, kind of, you know, very, very kind of loving. And also it reminds me of nature. It looks a very kind of a relaxed stone compared to other kind of very kind of, you know, mountainous or very kind of straight edge, a very kind of relaxed stone. I don't think that's the technical term. I'm sure someone will correct me, but
I like that, relaxed stone. Yeah.
It looks like it's just relaxed, and it's really beautiful. Oh well, Barbara, we're coming to the end of our time together. It's such a shame. You know, thank you, you know, for your time this afternoon. It's been wonderful to kind of get a sneak peek into your studio and for going, you know, through the collection. It's been wonderful. So thank you, you know, so much. And I'd like to say thank you to all of our attendees watching now, and also watching, you know, wherever you are. You know, whether through our YouTube or through Facebook as well. It's been really wonderful, you know, for you to join us. And, you know, Barbara is with us on Handmade Oxford online. So please do check out her profile picture. So once again, Barbara, thank you very much for joining us. And, you know, hopefully we'll look forward to working together in person very soon. But thank you so much for your time.
Thank you,
we wish you the best of luck.
Thank you.
Thank you. We'll see you later. Bye bye now, everyone.
Bye.